longest. Whoa. I'm Asger. You can ask me anything. Today I'm gonna try and answer this question. Why is honesty so important? Now, whoa, we just have like a swarm of playful butterflies flying around here. I don't know if you could see them. I'm not gonna kill any of them in case you watched one of my latest videos and were wondering. But okay, back to honesty. This is one of those questions where many people will ask themselves, why is he even talking about that? What are you talking about? Of course it's important to be honest. But the very reason that I'm so interested in it is because most people take for granted that it's a value, it's a good thing. We should all strive to be honest whenever we can, and it's just objectively good. But if we look to nature, as I'm doing right now, animals have no such ideas of honesty. They can get away with it. They cheat and deceive each other just for their own benefit. But here's the thing. I find myself returning to honesty over and over again. I actually think it's probably the number one principle that I subscribe to. And that's what makes me ask myself, why am I so fixated on honesty? I mean, there are so many other values that I could subscribe to that could be equally important. Stealing is bad. Sometimes you just notice your own behavior, your own thoughts, and you see some patterns in your own thoughts. And I could just see this pattern re-emerging again and again and again. Honesty seems to be the value that I value above any other value, really. But at the same time, I can identify many situations where being honest doesn't lead to the maximum positive outcome, at least not if we see the maximum positive outcome as to have as little suffering as possible. I had this discussion with a friend just recently. She claimed that honesty was always the best path. And I gave her an example, and I think the example was bad because I failed to make her see my point. Take, for instance, a situation where by telling a white lie or just by being dishonest, or you could save one or several other people's lives. Let's say you're traveling in another country that has a weird legal system that you don't quite understand. Someone accuses your friend of having smuggled drugs across the border. You know your friend is innocent, but in order to save him, you have to tell a lie in front of the jury in this exotic and unjust country. I mean, wouldn't it be completely immoral not to lie in that situation? I'm not saying I know the answer to what I would do in that situation before I've actually been in it, but I'm just saying I would definitely, at the very least, contemplate saving my friend's life. And there are many other everyday situations. If you have kids, I don't have any kids, but I have many friends with kids, and sometimes they're put in situations where they sort of feel that they have to lie to protect their kids, at least until they're old enough to be able to handle the truth. Okay, so that's one thing. But I really started thinking about this because I just find myself over and over again, I catch myself actually using this honesty paradigm to make some very important choices in my life. I mean, I shouldn't call it a thriving business, but I closed down a pretty good and definitely a profitable business simply because I felt it was in conflict with this value I have, that honesty is important. Then I started thinking, is it culture? I mean, that's the most obvious place to start, right? Okay, had to get out of the wind. Hopefully you can hear me now. So I was asking myself, do I feel like this because of culture? And if so, is it specifically because of the Christian heritage in the country I grew up in? We do have the 8th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And I actually had to look it up to make sure I understood what it meant. I mean, what is meant by thy neighbor. And it seems that your neighbor is just any person you encounter, essentially. It's probably not news to you if you're more Bible strong than I am, and chances are you are. And not bearing false witness obviously just mean do not lie. So, I mean, that could be a reason. But then I thought about Socrates. As many of you will know, Socrates was put to trial for corrupting the youth. And one of the, there are many interesting observations there. Much has been written about his apology, and I want to just make 3 points here. So number one, had he made his apology differently, he could have probably just said what he knew the jury wanted to hear. He could have walked free. Second thing is, one of his friends asked him, why don't we just bribe the guards? They knew they could do that, and they had the funds or the means to do so, and Socrates turned it down. And the very last thing, according to the writings we have at least, the very last thing Socrates said was he reminded his friend to repay a rooster that he was in debt. So that was the very last thing on his mind before drinking poison, was to settle a tiny little thing. A rooster in ancient Greece, it wasn't worth much more than it is today, probably, which is not a whole lot. But to Socrates, the most important thing seemed to be honesty. And here's the problem. Socrates lived in pre-Christian times, yet he was so fixated on honesty that it not only cost him his life, but it was also the very last thing on his mind, that this debt, rather insignificant debt to a friend, was paid. So this tells me that it predates Christian dogma. I'm not trying to make some historical point here. I'm just saying honesty seems to be a value that runs extremely deep. Actually, looking back, I think I can identify more situations where I suffered significant losses socially, financially, vocationally, because I prioritized honesty. And I don't think I can honestly identify as many situations where I benefited from being honest. And this may be an observation bias thing, or it may just be too abstract for that to be possible. I like to see myself as a moral human being, and I also definitely prefer that others see me as a moral human being as well. I still don't feel that this fully explains why I'm so, I was gonna say adamant, but this is beyond that. It's obsessive. I'm obsessive about seeing myself through a certain moral lens, and many other people seem to be as well. So why is that? Why is that? Yeah, considering our nature as deceptive creatures, self-deceiving even in many cases, it's not obvious to me why that is. I could come up with some Darwinian evolutionary explanation, as I like to do. When you try to identify your own value systems even, sometimes it's really interesting to examine them in depth and ask yourself, why do I believe this so passionately? And I honestly don't know why I subscribe to honesty as a very important principle to live my life in compliance with. Oh my god, this is so beautiful again. Check it out. That's it for now. I know this video was a little different. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything, has value to me. And don't forget, ask me a question in the comments below. I will probably answer it. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.